The Distance Between Us, Part 1, Chapter 16. Not long after the government finally gave away the land Mommy so desperately wanted, she decided to go live with my aunt. Tia Güera lived downtown, a few blocks from Mommy's work. Mommy had already been staying at her apartment a day or two a week. Then it had become 3 days, then four, until finally one day she packed up her clothes and said she was moving in with my aunt. She got out of work late at night when buses were no longer running. The cab fare is 7 times the bus fare, she said. That's money we can use for food. If I stay at my sister's, I can walk there from work. We begged her to stay with us. We promised we would be good, but Mommy shook her head and said it was for the best. She now visited us on Sundays, and every time she left, Carlos, Mago, and I would keep ourselves from running after her. Betty chased after her like a little duckling. We were left behind to comfort our baby sister, to hold her while her tears subsided, to make funny faces and stick out our tongues, do cartwheels and handstands, sneak into the neighbor's yard to steal juicy guavas and mangoes to sweeten the bitter memory of the mother who came and went. Finally, it was Christmas again. I loved this time of year. It was the only time when our bellies would be stuffed with peanuts, fruit, and candy, thanks to the goodie bags we got at Las Posadas. These special celebrations were held for 9 nights straight in our local church. All the kids received goodie bags and got to break a piñata. Sometimes, if we were lucky, we even got a free toy on the last night of Las Posadas. But what I looked forward to most that Christmas was that Mommy was coming to spend it with us. Tío Crece found a dried tree branch and sanded it until it was smooth. He painted it white and filled it with a coffee can with concrete and stuck the branch into it. When the concrete hardened and the branch could stand on its own, he brought it into the house and said, "Here's our Christmas tree." Since we didn't have decorations, we used eggshells. We painted them in different colors and hung them from our tree, which in the end no longer looked like a branch, but a work of art. Mago and I spent all morning cleaning the house. I sprinkled water onto the dirt floor and swept it until it was smooth like clay. Mago got rid of all the spider webs on the ceiling with a broom. We dusted the furniture and wiped the chairs and table, and we even went outside to sweep the dirt road. We wanted this Christmas to be special. Mommy and Tia Güera were coming over in the evening, and we hoped that if we made the house look beautiful, maybe Mommy would change her mind and decide to come back to live with us. This was the only Christmas wish I had, for my mother to come back to me. When we saw them walking across the bridge, we ran to greet them. There was a man walking with them, and I thought it was my aunt's husband. I had only seen Tia Güera's husband once or twice, but when they got closer to the house, I knew it wasn't him. "This is Ray," Mommy said to us. I turned to look at Mago, and the smile she'd had on all day long, completely disappeared. I held her hand, but she pulled it away. They came into the house. I smelled the delicious aroma of the roasted chicken Mommy had brought. I looked at Ray. He seemed too young for Mommy. She said she'd met him at work. I wished his name wasn't the male version of my name. I didn't want to have anything in common with this man, and I especially didn't want to share my mother with him. Abuelita Chinta said, "The children are hungry. They've been cleaning the house all day. Please let us sit at the table." I tried to take a bite out of my chicken, but I couldn't taste it. All I could think about was that Mommy had a new man in her life, and now for sure she wouldn't want to come back to live with us. I made myself swallow. I didn't want to ruin our Christmas dinner. Mago didn't care about that. A few minutes into our dinner, she started to cry. "What's the matter with you?" Mommy asked. "What's the matter?" "What do you think is the matter with me?" Mago yelled. "Why did you have to bring him? This is our night with you. It's Christmas. We don't need you to bring your boyfriends home." "I can bring whomever I want," Mommy said. Mago rushed at her, and for a moment I thought she was going to hit our mother. Instead, she started kicking the chairs, pulling out her own hair, and screaming at the top of her lungs. It sent shivers down my spine. My sister had turned into a monster. Tia Güera and Mommy rushed at Mago and held her down, but Mago kept screaming, "I want to die! I want to die!" They forced her onto Abuelita Chinta's bed, and Mommy and Tia Güera pinned her down while Tío Crece grabbed a rope. Ray stood by the door and didn't say or do anything. I want to die! I want to die! Mago kept saying. What are you doing? Abuelita said. Nobody listened to her. I held Betty and my cousin Lupita in my arms because Mago was scaring them. Mommy, my aunt, and my uncle tied Mago's ankles and wrists. Mago kicked her legs up into the air and kicked Mommy in the face before Tio Cresa finally restrained her. I had not noticed that Ray had gone outside, but when I looked around, he wasn't there anymore. The screaming suddenly stopped, and when I turned to look at Mago, her eyes were rolling back, and then her head hung limply to the side. She's fainted, Abuelita said, making the sign of the cross. She rushed to get the bottle of alcohol. Look at what you've done, Juana. You should be ashamed of yourself. My grandmother wept as she tended to my sister. Mommy's hair was a mess. Her cheeks were stained with mascara, and her hot pink lipstick was smeared across her chin. She rubbed her cheek where Mago had kicked her, and I could tell it was swelling. Mommy said, I'm leaving now. If she isn't going to welcome Ray into this house, then I will not stay. Juana, be reasonable, Abuelita Chinta said, drying her tears. You shouldn't have brought that man here. Not tonight. The children wanted to spend this day with you. Just because their father broke your heart and now you're looking for someone to mend it, it doesn't mean they aren't your children anymore. I'm sorry, Ama. Mommy didn't look at us. She walked out the door and left. We sat on the bed and finally Mago opened her eyes. She looked around and saw that Mommy was gone. Come, children, Abuelita Chinta said. The chicken is getting cold. Carlos and I untied Mago's wrists and ankles, but we stayed there on the bed. Mago got up and headed to the opened door. I thought she was going to go outside and run to catch up to Mommy and ask her to please come back. Instead, Mago grabbed the door and slammed it shut.